Hi and welcome back to this YouTube channel and my eBay sellers account, GB Hatchery. Today I have a computer build. This is the Alienware R10 and this is actually a pre-built computer. So you may be asking, why are you building a pre-built? Well, this is going to be a pre-built build because I actually got this on eBay for an excellent price. What happened was they were selling a lot of these when the 3080s were in high demand. I say were, they really still are, but a lot of times people were buying the Alienware R10, they already had a computer, and they would rip the RTX 3080 GPU out of them and then just sell off the rest of the pieces because they wanted to have that GPU for their current build. So these are not always loved by everyone. There's a few corners that are kind of rounded out, and it makes them somewhat less desirable to the really hardcore enthusiast. So, but for me, honestly, I just wanted a 5600X from AMD, and I wanted it as cheap as I could get it. So, considering I paid $400 for this, plus a little bit of shipping, and I get the case, which is not always loved. It's kind of like a smaller form factor case, the ITX, and then it comes in like an ATX style footprint. So it's kind of, it can hold the heat a little bit, but I'm going to do some things to sort that out. But the Alienware, honestly, I used to have one. I had an Area 51. It was XP, and I loved that computer until the hard drive went out on me. It's kind of reminiscent for me, so I kind of always wanted another Alienware, and I've always seen them, but the prices were so high. And the 3080 Alienware is like $2,200, so it's a little bit steep for me, and I figured what could I do to lower the price and to customize it the way I want it. So $400 here. I actually ended up getting an RTX 3080 Ti. I probably could have got a 3070, and that would have been $500 and $400, and that would have been just a sweet deal, and it would have performed excellent. But you know, I had stood in line all night, and it was just a lot of work. And by the time I was at Best Buy and they came around with the papers and everything, I just thought, man, I'm just going to get a 3080 Ti. And I know the 3080 is within a hair of it. You know, it's just a little bit better for so much more money. But, you know, this thing, it actually performs within like 3% of a 3090. And a 3090, those were available too, but it wouldn't fit in this case. So even the 3080 Ti is going to be crammed in there, but that's the footprint of the 3080. But it's got kind of the innards of the 3090, so it's its own beast. And the 1080 Ti is kind of legendary. The 2080 Ti was also kind of talked about quite a bit. So the 3080 Ti, it doesn't seem like it's really hitting the same note as other gens. A couple years ago, 2080 Ti, it was really pounded 2080 Ti. Now people are kind of saying 3080 Ti. You know, it's 3080 is where people want to be because it's $700 and this is $12. So I paid the money, I paid the tax. It brought it almost to $13, and it was a lot of money. But so you can do the math on that. That's like technically 4, 12, 16, and I have an Alienware R10 with a 5600X. It did have 8 gigs of RAM, which isn't enough, but it had 8, and that's this here. There's just a little stick of 8 there, and so for that and the 3080 Ti, that's pretty good because usually Alienware would get $2,200, $2,250 or something like that for Alienware with just the 3080. Maybe I'd have to recheck the prices, but they go on sale too. So I'm not trying to talk anyone in or out of Alienware. It's just what I'm doing here. Just kind of, I grabbed a pre-built because it's got the CPU and the motherboard and everything like that. It has the case, and I don't know which case to buy anyway. If I was going to buy a case, I'd probably get one of those low form factor ones, and that's $150, $200 just in themselves. And for 4, you know, I get the whole shebang. So I actually don't mind this case. It actually kind of reminds me of Siren Head a little bit. So it's a little bit of Siren Head meets NVIDIA. So some of the products I'm going to be using is the H60. This is from Corsair. This is a water cooler. It's kind of like an all-in-one, so you don't have to pour the water or anything. You're probably familiar with it. If not, that's what it is. has a couple of lines, and you just put it on the CPU, and it acts like a CPU cooler. And what's nice about it is, as soon as it grabs the heat, it blows it out of the case. So you put the fan right at one of the outlets, and it grabs the heat from the CPU and puts it out instead of circulating it and then waiting for something else to circulate that. And once you have a bunch of loops and they're all looping, it takes a while and it's inefficient. So this just blows the heat from the CPU right out. And then this has two fans. One will blow through the front of it, and then the other will blow out the back by the wires. So that's also exhausting. And then you have something on the case. And I think between all of that, this probably will not overheat. I don't think it will. It has a fan up here at the top, and from what I've read from people who have actually used this H60, which is why I bought it, because I've actually read that it'll keep it below like 80 C Celsius. So then, but the thing is if I was going to shop again, I would get the 1,000 watts. I didn't know what I was doing when I bought this. I was just going to go the 5600X. I was going to go super cheap, and I was just going to do air cooling. And then when it really all came down to it, I thought, well, we'll just do this one. And then I wanted to get this really hot dog of a GPU, and I was going to have to end up getting this 850 watt power supply. So that's what I ended up doing here with this Thermaltake Smart Series power supply. It has RGB. I don't think I'll be doing much, but you know this has the swing out power supply, so I could swing it out for extra cooling, and then I could turn the RGB on. You know, maybe for kids' night or something, it would be fun. Just turn on the RGB, and you just never know. It's a nice option to have. I'm not really big into RGB, but why not? I'll be using this ADATA SSD. This is SU630, 1.92 terabyte. I've actually opened the box and used this on my other PC. It's a ThinkStation S20 with a W3680 at 3.3 gigahertz. I have that outfitted with a 2070 Super, and it's been working super. I mean, it's really been a 4K machine on games that are like a year or two old. Some of the newer games are running 40 FPS or something. I was getting, you know, Microsoft Flight Simulator, I was getting over 30 FPS in 1080p. I think it was a lot of times more like 50. I'd have to go back and check. I was playing VR a lot more than anything else, and VR is very taxing. So it's part of what made me want to upgrade is the single core performance on Microsoft Flight Simulator was really having a hard time with the CPU. So I knew I needed, originally I was just going to get this box and put that in there, but you know, life is short. Why not build a 3080 Ti system? So I swapped those out. I got the SSD from there, and that's here now. I'm actually going to try to use this i8 mini keyboard. This is just a tiny keyboard that you can just pass around the couch, because I kind of play in the living room, and we use a projector on this wall, and we do a lot of VR. I have the Vibe Cosmos, but I bought this HP Reverb G2, and I got this refurbished on eBay from Trendfort. And I opened the box, and it was, the lenses are nice. And there was actually a couple cat hairs on it, so I think it had been out of the box and used a bit. But people were sending these back quite a bit. There was problems with drivers with the X570 board. There was also power problems with the USB 3, whether or not it could power them. So I'm hoping for good luck here. HP will take these back as far as they won't take them back, but HP will send out a new cord. If you have problems with it, you can tell them what problem you're having, and they have a new cord that powers it correctly. A lot of people were having to use USB hubs and things to get around it. So I kind of think that it's going to be all right, and it wasn't used very much. So I have like a fan adapter over here. It has some SATA cables. They got the RAM, and I got another RAM kit and some Cryonaut. This is the Cryonaut Ultra High Performance Thermal Grease. This is not any kind of metal, liquid metal. I don't see a need for that, because it's just a tiny, even though it's very efficient, it's just a tiny sliver of area, and then it goes back to the metal, to the heat sink, or to the water. So I just figured I'm not going to do that. And but I did get this nice kit on eBay. This is a completely legit HyperX Fury, 32 gigabytes of 3600, so 32 gigs of 3600 megahertz. So these actually, they need this Fury X, this HyperX Fury, or yeah. the Fury, that needs that. It has something to do with the XMP profile or something. I'm not extremely versed on this. It's just what I've read. I haven't actually built a computer in quite a while. I've built a handful of them in my life, but I'm looking forward to this build, and it's nice to have that. The XMP profile on that is a little bit more compatible with this from what I've read. Now, it could just be they want to get the sale or something. I'm not sure. I think people have tried other types and they've worked, but it just comes down to how fast it's going to run for them. So I wanted to get the one, and it's nice because it came with 8 gigs and it was the Fury. It's kind of interesting that it doesn't say HyperX on it, but it says Fury. But it says Kingston. It has a little label on it. I believe this is legit, but they didn't put the HyperX right over here. But I might end up selling this on eBay and putting that toward the next purchase, whether it be something I can afford or not. You know, maybe in another year, there will be something new out, and I can get a Pimax 8KX or something. 8K Pluses are even coming out used right now, so they were raved about just a year ago, just like the 8KX is being raved about right now. So, oh, one more thing is with the G2, I did get this face mask. This is the wide FOV gasket, so it sets your face closer to the lenses. So it doesn't have like the valve index where you can turn the dial. I forgot how that works, but you can move the lenses in and back from your eyes, but on the G2 you cannot do that. So a lot of times when you push them in closer to your face, you get a wider field of view, or at least the impression of one. So I did buy this off eBay, and it looks pretty nice. It's 3D printed. It's done pretty well. And it has even a 3D printed gasket on it that's for the nose that's like rubberized. And it has this nice PU polyurethane leather style face mat, or what do you call it, the cushion. So there's that. I forgot to show that. So that's the build. It's probably not going to be too hard. A lot of this is already done. I don't have to mess around with reading how to use the case or anything. I guess there's not much to it but to just get started, and maybe I'll start with this power supply or this H60 here. I'm going to open it up and get inside the PC and see where to start. Alright, before going any further, I want to get inside these boxes and see what all I'm getting for my money. Here's the GeForce RTX 3080 Ti. I know what's in there, but I'd like to look at it, maybe give it a weight measurement, and just see what it's like. I've actually watched other unboxings, like many computer enthusiasts. I've actually become a computer enthusiast. I liked consoles, I still do. This is a hefty box. Look at that. Heck, even just the box. The top weighs 12 ounces. So there it is, my RTX 3080 Ti. Don't drop it. So we've all seen these on the internet. It's nice to finally have one in my hands. We've seen the design flow through here. This one blows through and back. It's like a 3 display port and a HDMI. .3080 Ti model PG133A. Now this is a low hash rate model. It's what was available at the time. Well, if I was going to be able to choose, I don't mind, but I think just for the value of it, it would probably be better to have one that mines normally. So it's only 3 pounds. I was expecting it to be like 6 or 7 pounds, but it's 3. But we know what that is. This is a PS5 in my eyes. This is going to perform as well as a PS5 with that HP Reverb. It's going to have the same resolution as the PS5 pretty much. Inspired by gamers, built by NVIDIA. So that weighs a pound. Looks like there's more in here. This is probably the connection cable. Got the quick start guide. There has to be a cable in here. Yeah, there's the cable. So I think pretty much everyone's aware of what that is. Unless this is the first video you've seen. And if so, that's a connector that gets this 12 pin down to, I think, 2 8 pins, I think. I'll see when I get there. I do like my consoles, but I gotta say for VR, having a computer has opened some doors. There's a lot of good stuff on PlayStation VR I was playing, but I was missing out on the flight simulators and a lot of other things. The multiplayer, I don't like paying for multiplayer because I might have an Xbox and a PS5, and by the time you pay, it's like 40 bucks a month. And it's nice to turn on multiplayer and not have to worry about it and put the money into the PC. But I see both sides, so I'm not going to start an argument about it, but I definitely see both sides. I have both. Here's this. This I got a pretty good deal on. I think I paid $160 for this. And I know there's some that are going around that are, I think they're calling them fake, but I think it might just be these sticks that are put into a clamshell. But this is definitely legit. I can tell just by the quality of the packaging, comparing with others that I've seen available that were also the real deal. I'm gonna have to see if I'm getting audio. I just super glued my mic, so then I had to scrub the glue off my hands. So there's a nice kit of DDR4. I did decide to buy now instead of waiting for DDR5 and the newer motherboard, because they're changing over to the AM5. This is AM4 and it's the top of the mark. But I just decided, you know, everything's going to be worth what you paid or what it's going to be worth next time. In 2 years it'll be worth a little bit less, quite a bit less actually. But you know, if I want to make the jump, I can just sell what I have and make the jump, or I can just continue to enjoy this. A lot of people say that the first gen is worth skipping, just kind of like the B350 boards. If you have a B350 board and you're at the top of it now with 5900X or something, a lot of times people want to upgrade the board just because the numbers sound better, you know. There's newer things, Gen 4, PCI Express, things like that, that make people want to make the leap anyway. So even though the socket's the same, I don't know, when I do a computer, I just feel like wherever it is the best place to buy. Like whatever it is available right now, those components are fit with each other. So this ADATA, whatever you can buy simultaneously, they work well together. And yeah, things will work compatibly. We've seen this before. This has been working well. This does not have a DRAM cache, so it's a bit of a downside on these because I think it goes into your RAM a little bit. I have 32 gigs of RAM, so I think I'll be okay. But You can always get one with a DRAM cache. This I actually bought, and I bought it open box, so this may be a return. I do that. I just like to save money, because then you can just feel better about it. And I sometimes just buy, you know, right from the retailer, like from Newegg or something. This box, I had it open once. Let's see, how does this work? I don't know, maybe I'll just cut the tape. Maybe I didn't have this open yet. It's possible I haven't opened it. There we go. Okay, maybe I didn't open it yet. I thought I did. There we go. So that still has the original pad. I think that's a pad. A lot of times people buy these and then they don't fit. And so they just send them back, and then they end up with a reseller. And then I get really good luck with the... Sometimes it comes from Amazon and their Amazon returns, or they'll even say in the description. Here's a fan. This is a thinner fan. There's one in there that might block the GPU. So hopefully this will fit in there and the GPU will snug right up to it. They're saying this is the fan to have, and you can get 2 of them possibly. I don't really care too much about noise as long as it's not just ridiculous. So I think I'm just going to put this in, and hopefully the stock fans, they say the stock fans actually move more air. They're louder, but they actually move more air. And some of the, I think Noctua or something, there's another fan brand that people are using, but I think they only get half voltage. They're like 24 volt fans or something. And so they're quieter, but they're moving less air. So, I mean, you could almost just put like a resistor or something on this and it would do the same thing. But anyway, I'll use this fan, and I'll definitely use this. It's a nice CPU cooler, a radiator. Put this behind there. Sometimes people double stack. They'll put a fan and another fan. I'm going to see about that too. If I can fit 2 fans, I can do a push-pull. And then that'll be probably enough to evacuate the case and everything. So it's going to be nice to have. I was really concerned about price initially, but once I started thinking about it and time passing, where I'm still, you know, income usually comes over time, and I haven't built it yet, and time's passing. These are the brackets. I'm going to leave them. Yeah, this is all the hardware. Everything's ready to go here. You know, as time passes, you start forgetting about the money you spent, and you can add to it, and it doesn't feel as though you just dropped one big. At least that's how it is for me. So that's what happened. I ended up just kind of upgrading my idea with upgrades. And we have the thermal take. I just kind of settled on this one. I was looking at pre-owned, and I was thinking, you know, pre-owned on this? No, I don't want. Not that you couldn't, but I just decided I wanted to have a new one. I thought about getting, there was aftermarket, you could get these aftermarket ones, or you could get a 1,000-watt Alienware PSU used, and I was thinking about that, but they were wanting real money, like $120. And I was thinking, this is brand new in the box, and pretty good rated. I have never bought a thermal take, but, you know, they don't really have a giver. They don't have like a thermal giver, so I had to go with the take. I don't feel bad about it. 7-year warranty. I mean, there's like a no-name brand one. You just don't know who's rebranding and whose factory is being used for all of them, and there's just a lot of things not to know. So, actually, I like the TT because I play Isle of Man TT in VR with Vorpex, and I really like that a lot. And I want to get out of the house and feel like I got away a bit and did a little bit of racing in the middle of the winter or any other time late at night. It's fun to play that game. And it's more of a simulation. I like the simulations more than the games, but the games are fun as well. The simulations are quite a bit of fun. So this is This is taped. There's the Thermaltake 850. It has a ring of RGB light in there. So if it's just one of those days I want to throw on some RGB, I have some. And I think the Alienware case glows too, so maybe I could color match, you know, go all green for a day or something. It should be fun. You know, if I can get a VR headset that'll work at night. All the VR headsets I have are inside-out tracking, so they end up needing the lights on. So in the future, if I end up maybe in the next couple of years with a Steam outside tracking VR system, maybe a Pimax or maybe the next Valve system, the Index 2. So the main rail is what a lot of times you got to look at. There's like total power is 850, but you got this 12 volt 70 amps. That's 846. I don't think it's going to be a problem on an 850, but some of the lower spec power supplies, you really need to look at the 12 volt rail and see what you can grab from that, because if it's too much, it'll make it you'll get coil whine and then possibly a blown PSU or motherboard. But I like this so far. Alright, so one more star here. We have the I think that's pronounced Rye. Usually that's like pie. I don't know. Pie and rye? How do you spell pie? Is that P-I-I? Anyway, I had this out of the package. It came in a nice plastic, but I set that to the side because I wanted to look at it. But it has a nice touchpad here. They have pretty good reviews. I'm not expecting any kind of accuracy through the roof or anything, but I do expect to be able to get to like the back button or something, or move over here to maybe something on Netflix. And I expect to be able to put in some passwords or put something into Steam search and then maybe scroll down or something, or to hand it to somebody if they're, say I'm going to the other room, or I can just pass this to somebody. And it's not like the whole keyboard. If you've ever had the keyboard in the living room, because this is going to be kind of like a living room gaming PC / entertainment center / anything else you want to do, this is going to be handy for that function. So if I was sitting at a desk, I would probably have gotten a keyboard and mouse, probably not even wireless, because I do like the connectivity of wired. But for sitting on a couch, this is going to be really convenient, especially with multiple users. So that's the Rye Mini i8. Now that H60 did have, it looked like it had some paste on it. It's not thermal paste, it's like a pad, like a factory pad that you use, but I'm going to go ahead and use this Cryonaut. I've heard good things about it. The last time I did any, I used the Arctic Silver, and I did look at the liquid metal, but I don't think it's worth the trouble because it's such a thin layer. Even though it's super efficient, it's that tiny little layer, and then it goes back into metal or back to the fluid of the all-in-one cooler. So people say good things about this, and I've read that there's really not much of an increase, not huge. I don't know, I haven't tested it, and to anybody that's using liquid metal, I don't want to like try to debunk anything. It could be the way to go, but I decided to go with this Cryonaut. And then to top it all off, with any of the money I saved, you could say I put it toward this refurbished HP Reverb G2. I don't think it was used very much, if at all. It comes in this nice sock. There was a little bit of cat hair on it. But the lenses are pristine. I already looked at it. No problems there. It does have this IPD adjustment. These have all been made and sold most recently, so they're only like a year old or so. There's no scratches on these cameras. All of that. It's not too heavy. 1 pound and 3 ounces. Just for comparison, I got the Vive Cosmos here. It's 1 pound 9 ounces. So I know a lot of people normally do metric, but that's a shipping scale, so I'm doing a little bit of ounces. And we have a nice controller. The only other thing I have to compare it to is the Cosmos controller. Or the PSVR, that's where I started. I actually like the Cosmos controller. It's kind of heavy, it's beefy. Do like a mini comparison while we're here. Cosmos works pretty good. It does have all the problems that people say, but when you're playing, you get to play, and it has a decent screen. And I did the, this is a little bit lighter. This has batteries in it too. These feel kind of substantial. You start boxing or anything. It has a click there, and it has a click there. This one doesn't really have a click. It's kind of more mushy. Mush in and out. These have clicks. It has a click there. But these are just mush in and out. And this is... And you got this extra one. I don't think that gets used much though. It's like a bumper. Ergonomically, these are not too bad, and they feel substantial. They do kind of go like this while you're playing. If you hold your hand still, they kind of hunt a little bit back and forth, and I think it's because, and I don't know why for sure, so don't quote me, and obviously if you're Vive, you know why, but the way I was thinking is it's kind of a low-res camera, so it only has so much resolution to figure out where it is. So it kind of, and it doesn't really want to move unless you're moving. Like when I play putting games, you really have to move to get the things moving. You can't, it doesn't do real fine. It's possible that they were trying to keep the jitter down, because if you look at some of the videos of early Vive stuff, everybody's hands were just jittering all over the place. And this one's a little bit, it has like a little bit of a mush to it. I just turned it on. I'm not trying to make excuses for it, I'm just trying to understand it. I do like it, but it's because I've played with it. Anything you play with, you're going to start liking. It's kind of like women a little bit. I hate to do that on the internet and say that, but it's kind of like relationships in general, that you spend time with somebody and you start to appreciate the good things about them. And that's the way these systems are, is you're spending time. It's like a car. I don't know. I hate to do all these comparisons. It's kind of cliche, but you get it. People get it. We've been there. So I'm not trying to turn this into a big old comparison, but that's the other system I have. Then there's a lot of cables here. There's all the cables. This one goes into the headset. They say wiggle that if you have a problem, I guess. The box right here, if I end up sending this back, this box will come back different on the new cord, because they did something where it cleans up the signal or maybe retransmits it. They kind of described it as cleaning up the signal, and it also turns off, so when you're not using it, it will shut off and not stay on, I think. I think that was this system. It does have a 45-watt power supply, so it still is powered. So I don't see why the USB 3 had power issues, but they did. They had power issues with the USB 3. And it does have this mini USB to USB 3 adapter. It has to have USB 3 as the protocol on that line, or else it will not boot, which could have been what stopped some people. I don't know why so many of these came back, but there's quite a number of them for sale on eBay. Some that don't have a cord are $300. You could probably get that one. I thought about it after I did this. I should have bought that one, and then just called HP and said, you know, I have errors, I need the cord, because that's the whole reason it doesn't have a cord anyway. And they would have sent one out, and I would have had a headset for $300. But instead I bought $400 because I wanted to have a cord. Because if the cord is faulty, I can still get a new cord, and then say I break a cord, say the cord after a long time of use, and I want to resell this, I can include the old cord. Say I tripped over it and it went back and forth so many times that it ended up breaking a wire, because that happens, you know, you use them a lot. So this does have the nice bass valve style headphones that sit off the ear, but I think it's loud bass and treble. So yeah, that is one, and in good condition. I haven't turned it on yet, so I can't vouch for its operability yet, but I'm feeling pretty good about it so far. Oh, real quick, that's showing it without the face gasket, as what I was just doing. I had those off because I was looking at it, but this gasket actually has magnets on it, and it goes in and just sits on there. I mean, that's it. It just goes on there like that. But I did buy this other face gasket, and it comes 3D printed. I want to say it's like Ward 3D printing, Ward printing or something on eBay. They had one for $39 and one for $41, and I bought the one for $41, and they were the same listing, just a different price. So I'm assuming it's just print quality. You know, you kind of have them bend or something. And it does have this area right here that's 3D printed, but it's like a rubber. It's like 3D printed softer material. Because that would be hard if it was like this. But the print's pretty good. I've done some 3D printing myself. I just put a print head on my router, and it worked pretty well. But this is a nicer print than what I was getting. Not necessarily perfect, but I don't know what that is. Not an issue, I can tell you that. But things happen. It's like toothpaste when you're going. But it's not bad. And I think this is an actual G2 cushion. One thing to notice, though, is this looks like a special open cell foam when you see this on the internet and you've never seen it in real life. But if you look really close, the surface of it is like a Joann fabric. Like from what I saw, I was imagining an open cell foam that had that kind of look all the way through. Like if I was to cut it, I would get more kind of like it was a material, solid. But that's actually just regular foam, and then that's going to be like a fabric, as you can see. So that's different. I was expecting that to be different. It's fine, but this is like a polyurethane material. Leather-like. Vegan leather. Something like that. I don't want to call it something that's people that made it don't want me to say, but see, that one snapped right in. I don't see why that other one didn't snap in. That one really grabs on. This one wasn't doing that. Oh, there it goes. Yeah, it's doing it. It's in there. So what's nice about the Oculus Quest games, like some of the ones that are low spec, that run well on the Quest, kind of like, what is that, walk around golf, walk around putt-putt or whatever. we play that, and it runs really good if you have a high-end gaming system. Even just my 2070 Super and the old workstation, you can get 90 frames locked, and you can super sample as high as you want. You usually get like at least 150. 100% is actually 150, but usually you can go higher than that, and then you get a really nice, crisp image. Even on the Cosmos with the 36, well, not the 36, but the 1600 by 1400 display. I think the Cosmos is 1700 by 1400, something like that. But you can super sample it, and it ends up having a really clean look. So this is a powered cable, which provides power, and there's USB, and I think there's an adapter. So I was wondering if the adapter was there, and it is, so I can go USB 3, has to have USB 3, go to this adapter, there's a display port. I think the new 8KX has 2 display ports, I think. So this is single display port. Sounds like they could have used 2 display ports though. This goes to the headset. I hear if you wiggle this, sometimes you can have problems, or if you don't wiggle it, you should have, or something like that. And then the new one, the new cable that they're giving out, I think this box has been redesigned. It's a little bit bigger, and it has a switch in it that'll turn the headset on and off. And I think it has like a way, it has like some electronics that are cleaning up the signal. Maybe it's getting the signal and reproducing it or something. I don't know. I'm not going to speak for HP, but there is an improvement here. And hopefully I don't need it. I mean, if I don't need it, that's awesome. It's possible that they say there's one USB port that'll work on your system, and you have to find it, and then you have to use it. So maybe it's the first one in the chain or something. But it's the one thing about VR that kind of gets a little bit old. Really, it's the what stops me from getting into VR is all the cords. Because if you clean them up to make the place look nice, then they're not being ready to be used. They're not ready. So then you end up having to kind of put them off to the side on the floor coiled up, so that when you jump into VR, it can be done quickly, so that it's minimal work. Because the more work it is, and that's where the Quest came in, but I don't really want to support the Quest very much. But it's kind of cool. He's going to break the ice on some of it. It's kind of like phone VR, but it has kind of like PlayStation VR quality or something. I haven't actually played one. I think if I had one, I would hook it up to my computer, and then I would say, why didn't I just get PC VR? Because that's what I'm doing anyway. But, you know, it's kind of cool if you want to go show your friends or something. If you have parents who have never done VR and they're like, oh, bah humbug, you can say, yeah, well, check this out, you know, and I can watch a movie with you if I buy you one. I mean, there's a lot of good things about it, but it's just not my cup of tea. Let's see, maybe this was more like that. So, but to each their own. I mean, I'm buying refurbished stuff and I'm putting a video on the internet about it, so a lot of people would never do that. So, like I say, to each their own. But I got a nice headset that came in a nice sock. It's ready to go. It fits in the box. One more box to put on the shelf. The box is pretty beat up, but that's why I got $50. I don't know if I would take $50 for someone to beat up my box, though. I don't know. Maybe I would. That and the computer. Last but not least, it's the Siren head. It's the Alienware head there. These could be considered quirky, but you get the nice Alienware down the side. I don't hate aliens. I like aliens. I like Alienware. I had one, and it was very good to me. Actually pretty excited about having another one. It's going to be neat. The 3080 Ti is overclocked a couple percent. It's it has this thing where you open the back, and then a lot of things swing out. This is totally proprietary, like beyond belief. You push these down to unlock, and then you pull that out, and then this kind of swings out, and then but then it gets hung up, and then you kind of like do this, and then this comes off. It's like the top the bottom goes in first with these little hitches. It's kind of tough to get this in, but it's mostly designed for people to have a pre-built, and they're not even going to ever go in there. Maybe to dust it. Not sure why this was designed like this. It has kind of like a handle right here. And then once these are up, this swings out, but it doesn't swing out real freely. It's kind of like it doesn't want to do it. If you look at the hinges, they're like, I don't know, a couple pieces of metal that are grinding there. But it's positive. It's positive movement. I mean, it's like it's held, is what I'm saying. It's definitely held in place there, and it pivots there. But there are definitely no bearings. But you know, it's just something you pull out over the life of it. What, 10 times? Now, if you have a RGB power supply here, I'm not sure if it's going to show very well. I'm not sure. I haven't done this before, and I haven't set one up. Looks like the fan's on the outside. So with it shut, I should be able to get thermal take on the side with possibly RGB. And then if I'm out in the living room and it's pointed out, then I could put RGB on. But tisk tisk, right? No, it'll be fine. It'll be good. I'll enjoy it. It'll be excellent. It'll be stupendous. And then here is the thing about this here. I don't know if we want to get too much in this until I get into the actual build, but just real quick. So there's my air cooler. This is actually an Intel air cooler that they cocked sideways and put on there however they saw fit, with the brackets from an Intel motherboard to save some money. You know, people really beat up on you when you don't get things that are made for what you're doing. Like if you try to do like a mold release and you go get household, what do they call it? Like get some household oil, spray some PAM, and you start making quality composite molding, and you're using things that aren't made for it. People really get bent out of shape. But then Dell kind of gets to where they're doing some of that. But I mean, it works. It's just sideways. The one thing that I didn't do is I didn't get heat sinks for these VRMs. That's this part right here. These are going to get hot. So I might have to order something and get it in fast, or just not overclock anything and maybe put a temp gun on them, make sure they're not going to overheat. But with this blows down and it blows through, and then these will get some air. But if I have a CPU cooler on here that's blowing out here, there's not going to be any kind of circulation within here. There will probably be some from the GPU blowing. Air will get around, but it's not going to be a direct blow. And these usually they need to have heat sinks. Now Dell does sell some on their website. They usually, if you have the OEM water cooler that hooks up with the Alien on it, that actually comes with those. And I guess if you get the right person on the phone, you can buy them from Dell. I may still try to do that, but they do have some that you can buy for like Raspberry Pi. I don't know, some kind of, I actually don't know how they're labeled, but they do have just some small stick-on heat sinks that I could put in here, which would be better than nothing. And I have the 256 gig M.2 SSD right on the board. It would be nice to have like 4 terabytes on there, but I kind of like that that's just the OS on there. As far as I know, I haven't booted this up, but I'm assuming it has the Alienware OS on there and the Windows 10, and I can just leave it. Maybe update to 11, but maybe not, I don't know. And I'm going to run SATA drives. You know, I'm always tempted to get like 4 terabytes or run 2 in RAID Stripe, or 4 1 terabytes in RAID Stripe, but I just have that 2 terabyte. I'm just going to let it go. And another thing to know about these This is an 8 times PCI slot. It's PCI Express 4.0. So supposedly with it being 8 times, it's going to be enough bandwidth for the graphics cards. But if you're a real stickler about having this being a 16x because that's the norm, it is not. It's an 8x. But they say, from what I've read, some people have written on the internet that the 8x PCI Express 4.0 is the same or more bandwidth than the PCI Express 3.0 16x. So you have nothing to worry about. I don't know, if I lose a percent or two, I don't really think I'd like that considering all the money I have. But as you start getting into the highest end stuff, you start paying $500 for another 2 or 3% all over. And at some point you have like a tiny little bottleneck somewhere. But I have a 5600X underneath there and a water cooler. It's going to keep it cool so it can stay turboed. And I have a 3080 Ti, and it's going to have an 850 watt PSU, and I'm going to have 32 gigs of RAM. I'm going to have 2 terabytes, so I'm going to be okay. I think it's going to be all right. And once I get it built, I'm not going to think about it anymore. I'm going to try not to bite my nails. There's a time and a place for that, and that's when I'm purchasing the items. And I already bought them, so now it's just time to screw it all together. So here's that connector. This looks similar to what I saw. And these are some big honking connectors. What are these two? That's USB. Those are thick USBs. So really, while I'm sitting here, I could just put those RAM sticks in, but I'm going to get set up for a good angle on this. Maybe I'll try to figure out this fan. Maybe I'll see about the GPU size. In fact, while I'm here, I think I want to lay it down is what I'm saying. I want to lay it down so I can look at it. But just to size this GPU, I think that they say that that fan is in the way. Yeah, the fan's in the way. It'll just barely slide in there. Just barely, if that fan's gone. So the first thing that's got to happen is that fan's got to come out. And it's pretty thick, and I think the Corsair fan will work. This has all been kind of researched. And they say that fan's got to come out. And that's the front. But other than that, this is going to fit in there. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and take off this CPU cooler. A few things to note first is these fan headers. This one says fan top. So that's going to be this one. You can see the line goes right to it. So these are going to be like case fans. This is the CPU fan. And then here's a front fan, as you can see right there. It says front fan. And that's this one. You can see that line goes over, and it does. It goes to this front fan. So that's the fan that's going to come out. And I think I'm going to try, hopefully, to double them up. Both of the stock fans right there. I think they're louder, but they push a lot of air. If I can get both there, that would be awesome. I might only be able to get one. But then I'll put that Corsair fan up here. Hopefully it's skinny enough. If not, I'll have to order one. And that'll be, it looks to be intake. Yeah, that's intake. So technically I could put another intake up here if I wanted to. It's possible I'll have to leave this just open and have no fan, but I'll have to cross that bridge when I get to it. But I did want to look at some of the ins and outs here. Alright, so here we are looking in from the back. I'm going to go ahead and unscrew the CPU cooler and see what we get. I'm thinking it's going to be a 5600X under there. Then I'm going to unplug this. I'm going to pull this up. You can see what we have there. And I'm going to unplug it. The blue wire is on the left, as norm. This is not Beat Saber. And that comes right off. There we have our stock CPU cooler coming off. Has kind of like a plug at the end there. What do you call that? Anyway, so we have dry paper towel. I haven't gotten the baby wipes out yet. Hopefully I won't have to. I don't want to press on it too hard. It's kind of like toothpaste. Now resorting to baby wipes. That works really well. It's probably what I should have done in the first place, because I feel like I was pressing on it too hard. But this seems a little bit more wet than I would recommend, but I believe this is mostly alcohol. But I'm just not going to squeeze it really hard so it doesn't leave too much water or moisture, whatever the moisture is. Judging by the smell, it's alcohol, but there's probably quite a bit of water as well. A lot of alcohols are actually mixed with water if you go get alcohol from the drugstore. A lot of times it can be 70% or 90%. Looks like there's some scratches on there still. Oh well, I'm not going to nitpick about that. Ryzen 5600X, we have a winner. Okay, so moving on, I think I'm going to mount the cooler on the top. It looks like the front's going to be too cram-packed with the GPU, so it's very common actually for everyone who has one of these to mount it at the top. In fact, the OEM all-in-one cooler is at the top, so that's where I'm going to put this. Hopefully I can stack the fans and do push-pull. If not, I'll just do one stock fan. But somehow this comes off. I don't think it's very graceful. It's just kind of rip it off type of a deal, like that. There we go. There we go. All right. Did anything break? Not that I can see. So that's an interesting design. Just kind of lots of tabs. So that gets us closer to the top. Not a lot of people that would say possibly negative things about this design. I'm sure somewhere someone feels like it's their baby. I mean, it was their idea. And it's a lot of nifty plastic to kind of doll it up for kind of like a console looking thing. And it's not just squared off. I think some of the cases, even though they're functional for a builder, sometimes the squared off box to me seems like it could be elaborated on. So I kind of like this actually. But functionally, you know, form usually meets function. So a lot of the fans are modular, they're square, the CPU cooler is square, this is square, there's a lot of squares. The GPU is kind of in a squared off rectangular configuration, so it ends up being kind of a square type of a thing. But this is kind of siren headed out a little bit. Anyway, I don't know if Dell wants these to be known as siren head computers, but so I'm not going to say that too much It was just kind of a thought. So here's the part where the fans go. I think you could unscrew this whole piece of metal if you wanted to, but it would probably house the fans pretty well. It's kind of like a nice little cage. So I'm going to lay this down and take that fan out. There's one sitting here. So it looks like this has 2 screws, one right there and one right here. Helps to have a magnetic screwdriver. It looks like it kind of is held in by these clips right here. There's some clips right here it was kind of held in with. Something like that. It's just sheet metal. Okay, so down here on our fan, again, blue's on the left side. It looks like dust, but that's just lack of paint. Kind of an interesting view of the bottom. You don't always see that, but it's got some nice rubber pads here and some information. So now that those screws are out from that fan, it looks like this whole cage is loose. So I think I'm going to take that out and see if I can load that Mag Daddy. Take these wires off. These are probably going to have to come off anyway. What are those? ATX CPU. P2A is on the right side and P2B is on the left. I don't think it matters. I think these are just power. I'm going to be changing that anyway, so it's not going to be a big deal for me. But I should be able to just kind of drag this out and kind of go down and out. Hopefully I can load it and put it back in. I don't know that I can. Maybe I'll just give it a shot though, or at least give me an idea of what I can fit in there, and then maybe put it back and put the items in. We'll see here. I'm going to check it out. Okay, while I'm in here, I'm going to go ahead and take this front fan out because the GPU will not work with that in there. There you go. Just firmly down. And then blue on the left again. Looking at it from this direction. If you look at it right here, the blue was on the left. This is the front of it though, but so we have our fan. And I don't think we're going to need this case necessarily. I think this case is really more for the front. I'm not going to take it out just yet, but I think I'm going to be able to load this with one fan and the cooler, and then once I get it back in there, then I'll be able to put one more fan on top. Alright, it's starting to look like a salvage yard around here, but I suppose I would want this to be intake, so I'm going to try to take this Corsair fan and see if I can wedge this in here nice somehow. I might just zip strip that on, I don't know. But what I have to know is if this RTX GPU will fit in there. Wow, that's so close, it's not even right. I don't think it fits. It's gonna scratch up the GPU. Yeah, no, that's not gonna work. Scratching up my GPU, man. If I got a thinner fan, I could put a fan up here. But my hopes were to use this Corsair fan. That's not going to work. I could put it up here though, and just leave this as a passive air intake, and this could be a fan, which would be nice for these VRMs actually, to have a fan up here and blow through, because that's for the hard drive, and I'm not putting a hard drive ever. The only thing that could ever end up being a problem is if I stack a bunch of SSDs in there, which I don't think I'll end up doing, because we have 2 bays down here for SSDs, and SATAs are kind of going out of style anyway, much like computers in general all the time. So I think before that ever ends up being a problem, I'll be on to the next thing. So I'm going to leave this wide open so I can get my GPU in here and not have to worry about clearance. If I decide to, I can always put a fan in here later. I would have one here and one here blowing up, one out here, and it would just be awesome. So yeah, for now, it's good. I have the computer turned around a bit, but this fatter bar was actually toward the front of the computer. So I'm going to look at it in that regard, and we have this stock fan was going on like this. You see it hooks on. So what that gives me the opportunity to do is go ahead and put this in there like that, and hopefully cram this one all the way in the back. A lot of people were really trying to get a quiet system. I may regret it, but I'm going to go for high power to get the most flow through, and these are going to be the highest power fans. I guess they're like 4,000 RPM or something. So these are the stock fans, 1.5 amps at 12 volts. So these are like 20 watts, which into horsepower is like 1/35 of the horsepower. So with 2 of them, I'll be at like 1/17 of a horse just to blow air through this. So that's going to be plenty. I may regret it with all the noise, but we'll see. I can always taper back in the future, but I don't really want to buy anything else. So this one's all ready to go to be sandwiched on top. We'll leave this off to the side. This one I'm going to take out of this case. Looks like there's some tabs. Lots of them. Simultaneous tabs. Like that, have another. These are not really supposed to be taken apart very much. It's a pre-built. It's probably supposed to be able to just go snap, put it in, sell it. Have a line of 10 or 12 of them. Okay. We have a connector that we can plug in with the blue on the left. I think it'll work. And we want to blow up, so we have, this is the back side. It's going to blow this way, obviously. And the fan header for the plug-in is to a point where I could put it like this, with this more toward the front. So here's the bag of hardware that came with the H60. And I think some of this is what we'll need for the CPU cooler portion. I'm not sure if this is for the fan. I assume that's for the fan. Wouldn't that be for the fan? Seems like it would be. So I get a screw through there, one of the screws through, this is toward the front. This radiator just barely slides down. I don't know if it's going to have room for that wire. That's really the only thing. Maybe this wire could fit right there. There we go. So with the wire hanging out, the radiator just gives a little bit of clearance right there. And I get my little happy sandwich. I think what I'm going to do is do 2 screws for each fan. Just do kitty corner, these 2 screws and those 2. And I think it'll be enough for me. Start wanting to cut corners once I'm working with a 3080 Ti. This flathead was actually engaging these screws really well. I switched to a Phillips and it started wanting to strip a little bit, move around. Okay. So I'm going to get rid of the rest of this hardware. Not permanently, but just kind of set it aside. There were some washers. Oh well. I should be reading the instructions. I'll get them out in a minute. If I do something wrong, I'll just have to undo it. So now that's a stack. We have a fan that's going to blow out, we have a radiator, and then once it's in there, and the OEM Alienware cooler, the OEM Alienware cooler could be just like this. The water cooler that they have, the all-in-one. I don't know if it's double stacked though. I think it's probably at least stacked like that. But a double stack seems kind of cool. Alright, this is actually working out to be a lot easier than I expected, but I'm ready for a hiccup, right? This would be the time. I have this cooler bounced around in here and breaking diodes and everything. I'm ready for it. But let's see about it. Born ready. Nice and slow, nice and slow. That top edge, come on, get the top edge. Nope, not the bottom edge. Right past that. Right past that. Oh, I don't want to break anything. No, don't break anything. It's this RAM. Just have to come up and get past the RAM. There you go. Past the RAM and past this power supply, past the RAM, bottom in first. And straighten it out and back it goes. There we go. Yeah, it's a happy family if I ever saw one. Seafood surprise. Okay. No, I just had General Tea, so. This is actually starting to look like a professional installation, but all these parts are designed for each other. They're the right size. I really can't take any credit. I do want to make sure this is going to spin in the right direction. This will be blowing upwards out the top. like a smokestack. Now I do have my 2 screws, so I'm not screwed yet. These are the times where a person wants to be very careful because you can really damage components, and it's just not worth it. So that looks positive right there. That looks like that was designed to help someone get through the day without pulling their hair out. If you do this all day, say you did 100 of these a day, you'd be glad that you can push that back and it just hangs on until you get your screws in. Because I don't think this is automated. Assembly. All right. So I actually ended up not needing these screws, so maybe I'll use these later. I got some super glue on my hand. I was gluing my microphone, so. It looks like these will both fit. It says top fan. I almost want to test it with a voltmeter to be sure, but I think one can go here. I'm going to have to check. I'm going to plug one in for sure. And then this other one, I'll have to see. I don't know. Let's plug it in. Maybe I'll look on the Dell website and be sure that these are both case fan headers. But it looks a lot like this one over here too, which is a fan header. That's from the front fan. But anyway, that was a lot easier than I thought so far. Now I still have to put this in, keep it from bouncing around. It's nice they put this cover on there so that if it is bouncing around, it's not really going to break too much components off or anything. Looks like there's a pad on there. So I don't know if I'm going to rub that off and then put my own, or exactly what I intend to do. I guess I do have this to plug in as well. I think I'll do that last. And these lines are pretty thick. Kind of feel bad moving them around too much. They're like big garden hoses. Definitely don't want to break them. But this is all going to go up like that. And then this is not going to want to have room. It's possible I could have put that on the other side, but I don't think this fan would have went in as nice. So it may be that I just have to push this down, or let's see if this closes even. Yeah, that doesn't even close. So that's an issue. Okay, I really like the idea of the push-pull configuration, but if you notice there's like a little notch right there, this needs to come down. And I don't know if you can see it, but they're just, it tends to be not really enough room. And you can bend it, but to me it looks like it's going to kink. So I think this is probably better suited for thinner fans if you want to do push-pull. What I think I'm going to do is take this back out and take that first fan out so that the radiator sits up higher, and then I'll have more room for these. Because it would really, I think these unkinked with one fan are going to be way better at getting rid of heat than two fans and a kink right here. So maybe I could route it this way or that, but these seem pretty thick. I don't know if my version is different from others, but these pipes, they seem rather thick. I've seen some other H60s that kind of seem thinner, but maybe it's just my perception on it and through the video, but maybe it's the same thing, I don't know. But I think what I'm going to do is go down to one fan here. Alright, so proceeding here. Nice climate controlled environment to make myself nice and comfy. Nothing like doing work like this in a sweatshop, you know, like, you know, just so to speak. I'm not talking about anybody that's... I've worked in hot jobs before, and it's nice when they're climate controlled. Even if you get a fan, like, that's all they got to do. They should really have, like, some kind of personal cooling device, considering how many people in the world are hot. And if they just had a... We try to cool components, electronics, but then when we see somebody is sitting in a 100-degree warehouse, no one says a thing. And it's high time that we put a little technology behind our people. We have video games about AUGs and all this stuff, but when it comes down to a factory worker being able to cool themselves efficiently, then, well, we turn a blind eye and just up the price per hour. So, I mean, I'll get right on it, right? So, I don't have this necessarily plugged in correctly. Don't want to break it. There we go. As far as these headers, I think you can run it off of this one. Doing some more research, may be the fan pump, and this is the CPU. And I think in the BIOS you can switch it around depending. But sometimes some of these coolers will throw an error, and you have to like press OK every time. So depending on which one of these two you use, you may have to make a change depending. But as you can see, I put the fan in first and then the radiator. So I'm going to change it up so that the radiator goes in and it's sitting further away so that I get more clearance. All the more reason to only use 2 screws. Yeah, that would be cool. It's too bad we can't do things without people heckling each other, you know. Like if you worked in a warehouse and you had like a huge heat sink on your back, you look like some kind of superhero or a dinosaur or something, but it was just a big aluminum heat sink and it helped you stay cool. That would be awesome. Because it's nice to be cool. We call each other cool. Hey man, how you doing? Oh, I'm cool. Be cool, you know. Why don't you be cool about that? But then when it comes to hot warehouses, it's like, eh. So these are going to be too long. These screws will be too long now. Okay, so I'm going to flip this around because the way it sits out, and I want it to sit in. But if I was to flip it, it would just be sucking air in, and I still want it to blow out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip it in this cradle. It has these rubber boots that need to be pushed through. Hopefully they can be. I don't know if they can be. There we go. A little bit tough. There's 2. These look like they could really break pretty easily. So now I want to keep this here and just kind of go like that. And put these back through. Hopefully I can get them back through. I didn't even think of that. I might have to get a needle nose. Some kind of plier. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and pull these through with this needle nose. I think these are pretty much one-time use. I don't know about twice. Seems like I could just rip this. There we go. Takes some doing. Seems like it's a pull and hold on to, and then keep coaxing it through with the needles. Right. It's officially flipped. I don't really like that as much. There we go. Just break that off. And that'll go in there. At least that's what I'm doing. I'm really not trying to teach a class. It's just a build log and the problems I'm running into and the successes I'm having and the decisions I'm making. And on this one, I'm going to screw this on right there. Oh, you can't screw it. It has the rubber things in it. Damn. Okay, so I left two of the rubber standoffs on. Just reinserted them. And then I'm gonna do 2 screws. Okay, fat side toward the front. This is going to be toward the front, or what do they call these, the hoses? Jeez, it's crazy. This thing's got these hanging out the side. That's just nutty. Never thought I would see that. Okay. So now, instead of the radiator being right here, I have a fan here now that was normally up here, outside of the cage, and then it would have radiator and fan. Now it's fan and radiator. So this gives me a little more room to bend these over. Should, hopefully. The only thing is it's going to run into this. Anyway, I'm going to try again. See what I get out of this. Worst case scenario, I have to do something different. It definitely seems like it's sitting in there a little different. There we go. Just barely. There we are. Just barely. You can see it's flush now. This doesn't line up as well. The screw hole is now like off to the side. I think the screw head will hold that down though. And it'll be all set until it hits a trash heap in about 25 years. Yeah, see it's grabbing it a little bit. Just a hair. Hopefully this one still lines up. I don't know if it does. No, that one doesn't even line up anymore. I can get a hole right there though. I gotta say, this isn't ideal necessarily how I was planned it to go, but once it's up and running, I don't think it's going to matter much. It's in there, it doesn't want to come out. This is locked in. Oh yeah, that's way better. Oh yeah. So that's way more acceptable. Way better. It's still not like super awesome, but I can zip strip these and they'll stay out of the way just like that. And it's a nice gradual bend. So that's going to be next. Alright, I have such a jumble in here that I'm a little bit concerned about putting things back. And I think it's just going to be a heck of a lot easier to do this power supply if I just go for it right now. So I already have this unplugged. I think I'm going to go ahead and unplug this main connector from the motherboard. So that one's up. And we have not a whole lot else. The GPU. And I don't see any others. Possibly something else. We'll have to see. But I think I'll go ahead and unscrew this as well. Now, wouldn't it be nice if PlayStation had an OS for some of these computers and you could upload the PlayStation OS and they didn't charge you monthly to use their internet service? How cool would that be? I know that's not the norm, and we all like Microsoft for what it does, but you know, a lot of people are using Linux, and a lot of these machines end up being gaming machines where people don't do anything else on it because they don't want to mix the two, business and gaming. They might have two computers, just depends on the person. You know what, there's even a bracket right here. I'm going to take this bracket because that's going to allow me to see what's going on with it. I can always put it back. There we go. Should just be able to lift this on out. So the only thing that was actually hooked up was this big motherboard one, and these two went to the motherboard, and this was all hanging out for SATA but wasn't hooked up, so it was pretty easy to take out. I was thinking it was going to be a tough job, but that was too easy. And what's nice is I can sell this on the internet. Somebody might need it. Okay, we got our Thermaltake Smart 850. Here's a big connector. I think that's the one we need. Or at least it's one of them. Alright. I know there's only going to be one of those in the bag, but I just wanted to be 100%, 1000% sure. Yeah, that's it. So we will be needing this one. Where it plugs in, A8. (24-pin) ATX. Has a line between. So it's going to be that one. Four by 4 CPU. Boy, it just has a lot of options. This is all SATA. I guess you can go SATA for days. This has the, what do they call those? There's a name for those. Kind of strange name. CPU. This is us. It ends up being like these ones that I pulled off. So this side goes here. So these are all on the left, the ones that you need. It's kind of intuitive, more so than I would have thought. These will go to the CPU. So this is 6x2 PCI Express, which I'm going to call the GPU, peripheral and SATA. So that's all you have. This might do both of them, like I could just do one line maybe, but I feel like I should run two, I don't know. I think it all comes off the same rail. Could probably just run these both to it. It would probably look cleaner. Peripheral and SATA, I'll need at least one of those. These are like, what do they call that, Romex? Or I forgot, that's not Romex, that's for the house, but it starts with like an M. I forgot what those are called. You'll know. So this is what I need to run my SSDs. Or at least the one SSD I have. This is not a good computer to have like a disk drive or anything like that. It doesn't really do disk drives. Luckily I have an external disk drive I can use for any kind of burning. Peripheral and SATA, I don't think it matters which one. These are all peripheral and SATA. So this is GPU. That's the big one. These two go to the big one. This one goes to the 4x4 CPU. This is GPU, PCI Express, and this is peripheral and SATA. So I will be using a SATA SSD. So where do we put that? I don't know, about right here. So I gotta snake all that through there. But I figured it'd be easier to put these on and snake than to put it in and try to get to where they go and not understand necessarily where it goes. But that's kind of cool. You get an Alienware and you start putting different parts in it, and it really makes it your own. And then it's still a pre-built. It was still easy from the get for somebody to pull the GPU out of. And me, I'm just making the best of the fact that it exists. So we'll pull this one out. This will give me at least probably 50 bucks on eBay, if not more. Now I don't have a problem with high prices on those. Originally I was thinking like that's a little bit much, but now I'm thinking like, well, you know, it's kind of worth it. Getting a good one. I'll put a fair price on it. I'm not going to gouge anyone. It'll be fair, it'll sell, and it'll be on its way. So this is like a big braid. And they're long too. I could even swing this out. Here's some beginner's luck, huh? Swing it out and boom. There we go. There we go. Thermal take the place of the stock PSU. There's all kinds of puns I could do. There's no reason for that. This is a nice PSU. It looks cool. That's why I picked it, you know. I'm kind of curious what the RGB looks like. Almost want to just turn it on and see. Like, what all are we talking? Alright, so now I can put this plate back. Kind of covers it up a little, this new PSU, but oh well. Now I'm being a little bit hesitant about connecting certain things in a certain order because this is a pretty compact computer and it's going to be tough on me if I put in like the RAM and then I have to do this, and the cooler is going to be in the way of other things. So I think the best thing to do is to plug in the board, get all of these power supplies plugged in, and then I'll probably move to the RAM, and then I'll move to the cooler, and then get these lines tucked away, and then finish it off with plugging everything in. So that I will have to, that does have a little space up here, that that part that I took off, that plate. I think I might end up having to go back into that plate and putting all these wires in there. It'll hide them, so that'll be cool. So this one is for the GPU. We'll just put that to the side. This is SATA. We'll put that to the side. This one's going down here. I'm going to take the long way just because it's so long. Boy, it's hard to gracefully hide that. I guess it was down in this bracket before, but it wasn't ribbon style. But once it's all put together and closed up, it won't bug me too much. Alright, so there's power there. Could probably zip strip it to that. Okay. So it looks like I could maybe twist that. Looks like it's got a little... Maybe I'll use that to my advantage somehow. I'm not sure how. So there's that one. In fact, I think I'll take that plate back off. These cables are so long. Really, they should have like an ITX version power supply that's really made for smaller cases. This is just a lot, and that's all just for that one. So it's kind of nice, actually. You can get them where you want them. And then probably zip strip them in and put that plate over. Okay, so that shortened them up a bit. Can always come back to it. I don't want that to get hung up in the fan. That would not be cool. Look at a little tuck point right there, so that's cool. Get more than one. All right. Get 2 tuck points there, so that's cool. That I definitely like. I'm calling that good. So I don't need to zip that one. Getting these shortened up, but they're hanging out the back. I think I'm going to zip those so they don't come back out. Use my toenail clippers here. That's convenient. First time I've done that in my life, but it's wonderful. So now I can run I get my GPU in here and I can run these wires shorter, all these cables shorter, probably as short as they can go, and then I'll do the same thing But at least this gives me working room for now for these other big ones. But they're plugged in now. I guess next I'll do the RAM sticks. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and put my RAM sticks in. This is 16 gigs. Looks like they face forward. It'd be kind of cool if you could see them. I guess from the front I could see it, but with this power supply hanging down, I'll be able to sell these in 10 years for probably decent money. They're pretty nice. But it's dual channel, so I'll be skipping one. Just do these two. Not sure it matters which ones you do, but you definitely have to do one of each. You want to have them on the same color. So those are in there. And with the H60, I got all these parts. I don't know what this is for. Maybe I'll find out shortly. It almost looks like it's a tap or something. I don't know. What is this? Maybe you could screw that in and then you get like this little thing to zip strip to. It's kind of neat. It could come in handy. You could probably sell that on the internet. But I'm going to go with, I know that these don't work. I don't know if this is for AMD or Intel. But actually this H60 I think is actually the 2013 version, which means this could be new old stock. I checked it out and it seems like this bracket's going to work, and I believe it's the long standoffs. I don't think I'm going to use these washers. I probably could, but I'm just glad to see there's 4 of each. So I'm going to start here with this and these. And also, being that it's so old, possibly, it looks new, but I think it's new old. And it looks like this thermal pad has never been used. It has like some compound on there, but there's a blemish. That's possible from me just having it bounce around in here. I don't know. It's possibly why it got sent back, and I got it for such a good deal. But I think what I'm going to do is clean this off and then put my Cryonaut on the Thermal Grizzly, and that way I'll have fresh paste. So I got another baby wipe. Kind of using my fingernail. That might not even be very good stuff. I don't know. It feels like plasticine almost. Just like clay. I don't know. These people specialize in what they do. Obviously you can see it's a specialized product, so it's probably the right stuff, and it probably would have worked fine. Nothing against it. It's possible it would even work better. I don't know. But it's just a good feeling when you have fresh paste, because it just eliminates that. And being that this is the 2013 model, as far as I can see on the internet, there's like a 2018 model and a 2013, and I think this is the older one. I may be mistaken. I don't know. I thought I got the newer one, and it's possible that people that are selling them are labeling them incorrectly. But either way, it's going to work. It's going to fit, and it's not bad. So I'm going to start installing these standoffs, which go over yonder. So I'll just be installing these standoffs. It does come with the shorter standoffs, and my best guess is it's the longer ones. So Looks like they're symmetrical, I think. Let me double check. So this is definitely the wrong one because I accidentally grabbed a short one and it does not go into the board. But they did have an Intel solution here. That's symmetrical. So this is symmetrical on both sides. It's the same. Okay, that's pretty straightforward. So then this bracket slips over. Slips over top. I had these kind of set up kind of cool, where this would go up like this. You can move these around, like they move. But I had it set up kind of neat where it was, one was like that and the other was like this. But it's going to be hard to get the paste on there and then get this all to work. Plus that's going to be in the way. That's going to be in the way. So this has to go underneath. But I was thinking this naturally pushes this out of the way of this power supply, and it was just going where it ought to go pretty much. Kind of nice. I was thinking that'd be the way to go. Alright, so here we are for the moment of truth. I kind of had it up to where they were both going up and zigzagging, and I was liking that because it seems like I'll be able to close this. I'll be able to put a little zip strip and tie it down to this maybe and just have it kind of tugged on, and I don't think I'll have any problems with it, and I'll be able to shut this and I won't have to worry about it. So here we have the Thermal Grizzly Cryonaut thermal paste, and there's a lot of different ways to put this on. I can put a dab, I can put it on and putty it around, or I can just put an X. I actually like the X. I feel like an X-Men. So I'm going to do an X. That's actually pretty thick. Reminds me of my caulking days. So that's thick, but I think it'll be okay. At least I know I'll get a good job out of it. Maybe a messy one. But I had these going up like this and over like that. So I'm just going to try to like hover this over. I'm going to hold my pinky so that the stud can't make it all the way through, and I'm going to get this started on one. I want it to come down even. Kind of like the lug nuts, so I get a nice squish. It's probably already squishing a little. Okay, so I'll just do a couple here, a couple here, a couple here, a couple over there, couple more. Some more right there, more right there. A little more. I think my squish just happened. That was my 5600X 3080 Ti squish on the CPU. I feel good about that. It came down nice and flat. It's nice and tight. They're all tight. I don't want to have these over like that. Kind of like this. Alright, so I just caught that metal. Caught that metal with this zip strip. I'm going to need 2 zip strips. It's not going to look real great, but we need function here. Hopefully it doesn't provide a kinking point. Okay, so that's 2 zip strips. Maybe I'll clip this one. Then try to hide that down there. And I'll just tighten this up a little bit. I want to have these up here like that. There we go. That's good. Alright, so this is to the fan. As you can see, it goes up there to the top fan. I'm actually going to plug that in with the blue side to the left, right to the top fan. There we go. And then this is the pump. It actually has, if you look on one side, it has these little things that'll hug the clip. So you find the clip, looks like it's on the top side. And this will go right next to that top fan. It's actually labeled pump. It says fan pump. Now, hopefully I don't get any errors. But it's going to sit to the right a little bit. Because then that kind of goes around that clip. So it does leave one prong open. Make sure it's not two there. Yeah. Because it hugs that clip. And then you know it's positive. And then this should shut. Bam. There's a few wires I also don't want to get into that fan, so I'm going to make a bow tie out of them. A bow tie can make good cable management. So it looks like here they have the hard drive SATA cable for the data cable to SATA here is going up to this hard drive bay, but I'm not going to use that. In fact, I might put a fan in it and draw some air in. So just real quick, I'm going to pull that out because I'm going to put the GPU in next. And I'll be able to run this. I'll be able to run that direct from here on down to one of these bays for the SSD. In fact, that now might be a good time to do that actually. So that gets plugged in. Then this will hang down off that. Then we have power. Looks like this one's to hang the other way. It's got a little notch. I guess these can go in here somewhat. Anyway, I'm just going to zip strip that right there. Call it happy. Pull this one through. I actually like this, the way this allows you to pull the excess through like this and then bunch it up and tuck it away. It's probably like that no matter what with a computer. One way or the other they hook you up. Alright, so that's the SSD installed now. Alright, here we go, the pride and joy. 3080 Ti. This is big for me. It's as big as it would be, you know. I'm not trying to rub it in. If you don't have one or anything, you'll get one. I mean, eventually. Look at that, I'm sweating. It's just pretty special. You know, it's going to play the same game, so I'm going to boot it up and it's going to be the same Steam logo. It may be somewhat of a letdown, but we're going to get some higher fidelity out of it, so that's neat. So I'm going to put this right here and push into that top slot. So that's like a PS5 Pro 2 years early. Anyway, it's in there pretty snug. If I don't throw the computer around, I think it'll be okay. So here's the power cable splitter. Comes off in a Mondo way. And originally, boy, that's kind of inconvenient with all of this. That's all right, we'll deal with it. Originally, I was going to run them both off this one cable, just kind of go like this. But I don't think I'm going to do that now. I think I'm just going to run one. And then I'm going to grab another one. After having spent all the money, I figure I might as well use all that wire to bring power in, seeing as I paid for it. Looks like the power connector's kind of getting in the way when you shut it. It wants to smash them. This is right above it. I mean, just right above it. So a person has to go like this. It's a good thing they're ribbon-like because it goes right behind it. But it's going to be right by that fan. But there aren't any options, other options than that. Hopefully it doesn't cause problems. Might have to zip strip that right there. I mean, it shuts. I want to make sure these wires are going to stay off that fan. I would hate for that to start grinding. So I'm just going to grab a little bit of this right here. There we go, safety measure. Here's all of this. That's a lot. I don't know where to start with it. There we go, nice and neat. Hopefully I don't have to take this back off again. Probably could have zip stripped to it actually. I could probably put a fan here. I think this would want to be intake. No, that's not fitting. Well, that would have been nice. Maybe I'll just take this cage out. Oh, it looks like I'm zip stripped to it. That's gonna hurt. It's kind of hard to see, but I could probably fit a fan back there. There's no GPU there. I like these high power ones, the stock ones. Should have thought of this earlier. Those are neat. That's USB. Main drag of the motherboard. And a fresh air bringer. That wire was a little bit tight right there. There we go. Get that front off. Almost wonder if you could put a fan here on the outside. I was eyeballing it. It doesn't really seem like it. Possibly, but looks like this fan is right here, so I almost just feel like zip stripping it in. Might be hard to get this action on tape. Alright, so it looks like I got that in there, and I used these zip strips. I just went through the first loop. Hopefully it doesn't vibrate or anything. It's not real fancy, but I think it's going to work. And then I get another fan where otherwise I wouldn't have. Yeah, it's in there good. It's not moving. This should make a little clip. Some of these manufacturers that make these just make it a little bit different so it's not a toe clipper. And you'd sell a bunch. Oops. Didn't want to break it. There we go. These USB headers, I just put these back on. I was kind of scared because they just have bare prongs, and it's pretty tough. So honestly, I would leave those if you want to be careful with them. But I got them back on. Hopefully they'll still work. And here we are. Probably just pull this off. Get a nice clean look. This fan I just put in right here. I'm going to go ahead and plug it in. Right there. So it's looking pretty clean. I had to clean this up because I didn't have anywhere for that to attach to, but I just kind of bunched them together, and I actually had to run the SATA around the outside of the GPU because when this closes it was going to close on it, but now everything's kind of going around the front, and then it's all bunched together and zip tied so that when I shut this it doesn't go into the fan, and everything's pretty clear. It shuts pretty nice. So here we have my little mini keyboard. There's a little trackpad. And it looks like it has a rechargeable battery, which is awesome. They sell these in different modes and models, and I was sure to get the one with this rechargeable battery. And they charged a little bit more. I think I paid $11, but you can often find the ones that have the rechargeable, like the AAA batteries. They have ones that have batteries. I don't know if it's AAA, I would assume so. But they'll charge you sometimes even more than this one, when this one is the one to have. So you got to shop, because there's a lot of people offering it. But then there's the dongle for it right there. And I guess I could just put this in somewhere. Wow, there's a lot of them. So like USB 3? That's got to be USB 3. I don't think I need USB 3 for that. There's a lot of USB ports here. There's like 6 of the regular and 4 of the fast, and then it even has a slot here, which is the mini. So that's pretty cool. I've never seen it say SS like that before. But there, I got my dongle in. So it's cool. It has a charge port up here and then an on-off switch right there. Maybe it needs to be charged. Looks like the top goes on after this, so I gotta take the top back off. Maybe I could slide it under. No. So here it is, first time booting up. Mouse is fast. This mouse is awesome. This is a Logitech G300S, and you just press this button, slow the mouse down. Bam. Got one. So it's going to need an update. So I think I'll work on this a little bit. Sounds like the fans are picking up a little bit here. They were really quiet. Get a little whoosh now. So this has never even been turned on. The person took the GPU out and they never even turned it on. It's weird, it's almost like a strange flicker on the left side of the screen. I would say that's probably the TV. The PSU has a setting on it that it'll turn on and off, and it'll only use the fan when it's needed. So it has a switch on the back, so it'll potentially run constantly, but we hit the switch, then it'll kind of just only run when it really needs it. You can see it's kind of turning on and off right now. It's kind of cool. So here's my new desktop. It's funny, you would think there would be like a big alien or something. My Alienware. It's basically just a Windows 10 PC. I think it has some extra tools, so I have to register this PC. So I have 1.74 terabyte. It's a 1.92, and then there's like partitions, and I think you lose some because it's like bits versus bytes or something. I'm not sure exactly how, but it ends up being like 8 out of 10 or something, or 256. It has something to do with the way computers work. So. But the OS is 168 gigs with 220 out of 220. So it's supposed to be 256, but you know how that goes. That's how it always is. It would be neat if somebody made one like a SSD that when you format it and you put it in the PC, it says 4 terabyte. So if they need to make it 440 or whatever they end up having to do. Here we go, my Alienware just came up. I didn't have to register. So I guess they give it to you after a little bit. They're just like, screw it, just give it to them. I like that. But it'd be cool if the SSDs were just a little bit oversized, because they like to make them a little bit undersized, 1.92 and stuff like that. Well, how about a little bit oversized? Chop that 4 terabyte down to 3.48 or something. Whatever it has to be, whatever numbers, not superstitious, whatever the numbers need to be, to where when you boot it up, it says available space 3 terabyte, 4 terabyte. I haven't seen any 3 terabyte. Some 3 terabyte SSDs would be nice that are overshot a little bit so that when you plug it in, it says 3 terabyte. That would be cool. Because round numbers are round numbers, you know. It is a round PC. You could just put a round number in there. But everything's kind of, you kind of feel like it's a little bit like the amplifiers for your stereos and you're shopping at Kmart. And they have the Roadmaster, and it says 25 bajillion gigawatts, but you know it's about 25 watts of treble. Nothing against Roadmaster, but you know it's just not a Rockford Fosgate 10 with a 500 watt amp that does what it says it's going to do. Register, validate your purchase to enable faster diagnostics. There's social, explore, accessories, Alienware, command center. That sounds like where I want to be. Let's see about this command center. Now when I start with an Alienware, I really feel like I'm starting a relationship because, man, my old Area 51, I used to make music on it. I did business. I did printing. I did photos. I mean, it was just the best thing. And back then, it was like having one of these. Welcome to Alienware. Scan for games. Adjust my lighting. I kind of want to play on Steam. So they have an area for you to put your games on. Or this would be where I'm going to be putting my games. But just in general for people. And that's what it looks like. I was kind of hoping that there would be some lights down the Alienware, but I think they have a more expensive case. There's a 1,000 watt case, and it's possible that one has the lights down the side. It's like another $100 or something. This was actually the low 500 watt case, but I just kicked it up to $850. I'm happy with it because I'm going to be able to sell that old power supply, the 8 gigs of RAM that were in there, and the fan that I'm not using that doesn't fit anywhere. And between all that, I'll have like $100 and some back. So this was $450 shipped, it was or so I have another $100. So it's $350 shipped. Just the processor alone is $300. So for another $50, I get the case, I get the motherboard, and so it's an awesome deal. That's why I did it. Plus, I have a long history with kind of liking my old Alienware. Now, am I going to love this? I don't know. I'll tell you in 2 years. But it's going to be a simulation computer with a 3080 Ti, so once I'm done playing the rest of the video games that I'm playing, such as Into the Radius, Microsoft Flight Simulator, Assetto Corsa, Project Cars 2, and I might get into X-Plane, especially if they come out with a newer one. This looks like it's having some kind of stuff coming across. I don't know what that's about. If that's this... I got this TV cheap. I should surely hope that it's not the graphics card. Dude, I'm getting lines across. I really don't think that that's the machine. You know, I picked this TV up for a really good price. It was like extraordinarily cheap. I might have to switch it out real quick because it's just not really doing a trick. Maybe I'll turn it off. Okay, now I'm getting a sharp image again. It looks like the HDMI 1 was having an issue, so I put it in HDMI 2, and now I don't. So maybe I need to blow out HDMI 1, and maybe it was a bad connection or something. But regardless, I'm going to leave it in HDMI 2, and it seems to be working excellent now. So now, what can I do? I mean, I can test the system. I can get the HP Reverb up and running. I should be able to plug that in and it'll just start saying yes sir, because the thing about the Windows Mixed Reality is that it's integrated with Windows, so when you plug in a headset, from what I know, it will say, hey, I see that, and then it will start up almost like Steam would with the Valve Index. So it's quite a tug of war, and I'm rooting for everybody, but at some point you end up having to kind of sidestep to your competitor a little bit. It's nice that they're all playing nice. You know, maybe you'd have to open an extra window and it makes it work. I do like the all-in-one, but you know what? If you're really all about that, the PlayStation VR is where it's at. And I've played a lot of PlayStation VR, but with this cutting-edge VR and video games on the computer, you kind of just got to let them compete, but yet work together and take the best that they have to offer. So, yeah, I'm going to get out that VR headset. Maybe I'll just get on Steam and start downloading some games. And then once I get the games on and I can look at things, maybe I'll do a little bit of performance. Now, if you're watching the video for this long, that's totally cool. This has gone into entertainment. You know, there's probably some information that a person could have picked up. But if you're watching this long, that's awesome. I do just want to just keep going with it because I'm having a wonderful time, and why not? You know, just go ahead and see how this thing works. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to go ahead and get on Steam, download some games. I don't have a whole ton of games. I'd like to get more. In fact, now that I have this system, I'll be probably picking up some games that my other system could not play, like Horizon Zero Dawn and Death Stranding. I could not play those. We've already played through Horizon Zero Dawn twice on the PS4 Pro and the PS4, but we didn't play Death Stranding, and I bought that last computer so I could play it partially. And then it needs AVX instructions, and the S20 does not have that ability because it's an X58 motherboard and chipset. So now with this, I don't have to worry about that. We can play Death Stranding. Now the game's already getting kind of old, so it's we're probably going to be wanting to play the newest and best. But you know, I played a little bit of Red Dead Redemption, but we didn't finish that. I haven't really been playing any Cyberpunk, but virtual reality is top of my list, especially for the 4 months when it's really cold outside. But anyway, yeah, I'm gonna turn this I'm gonna go ahead and get that Steam going. Okay, so I got Steam all booted up, and I downloaded one game. Now I got the Reverb G2 here. You can see there's a connector way at the bottom there. I'm just gonna go ahead and spray that out. You just never know. This looks clean too, but I don't know, I used to have an NES, so I know all about that. This guy goes in right here. Doesn't really seem to positively go in all the way. There we go. Just a little bit more. So we'll see if it like senses it. I don't know. It's plugged in. Display port is plugged in. So far I don't see it sensing anything. HP Reverb G2 driver download. Support at HP. I've learned the hard way, just I don't ever download from those shady sites that say, hey, we have drivers for you or whatever.com, and there's something that's, you're not sure if you should click this or click this. It's bad news every time. Sometimes you get what you want, but within so much time you'll have a virus, it seems to me. Or it's shady. They have one option. HP Reverb G2 Audio FW Update. All drivers. Firmware. Download. Open the file. Say OK. Updated audio. I don't know if that was it. Okay, so it's right here in the Microsoft Store. HP Reverb G2 VR headset setup. I already pressed get. I guess I'll say get twice. So install. Please plug the USB cable from your HP VR headset into a USB 3.0 port. Now I did plug it in, but it's to the mini USB. And the graphics card doesn't have a USB. Probably gonna end up needing a cable. You know what it is there's this 45 watt adapter, and I was looking to where it plugs in and I couldn't find it. But if you look here, this tiny little hole right there is where it goes. And it's still not getting what I want out of it yet. They were saying that only one port will work sometimes. I don't see why. It's got a 45 watt power adapter. That should be enough. Guess I could try on the front of the computer and see if that one works. So far I have no luck. They were saying it was having a hard time with the X570 board, but I confirmed my hardware with the guy I bought this from, and there was no issue. It's not that they usually get it to work some, they just have some issues. This is just not sensing it right now. I would say I probably am going to need a new cable, unfortunately. Maybe if I play around with it some more. Okay, so I was just closing everything down after I said, you know, I'm about done with this. And all of a sudden, welcome to Windows Mixed Reality came up. Ryzen 5 5600 6-core, 32 gigs of RAM, disk space, 162 gigabytes. USB 3, it says yes. Bluetooth, yes. So it's checking out, so that's cool. It just took a second. It says can't run. The piece doesn't meet the minimum requirements. Because of what? The graphics driver? So, you know what? I need to set up my graphics drivers. I haven't done that yet. I'm so wanting to play a game. So I'm going to have to go and get all the drivers for that and set that up. Okay, so here I am at nvidia.com. Signed in, went to the drivers tab, told them I have a GeForce 30 series, 3080 Ti, Windows 10 64-bit, download all. So this is going to do all the drivers for all the games, and I believe for the card too. Is this working? They change the drivers for, like, if there's a new big game out, it's game ready. They go in and change the driver to suit just a single game and update the whole package. Okay, so here's all of the game ready drivers. Studio driver, I think that's more for making computer graphics. So this is August 10th, August 31st. I'll do the newest one. Alright, so it looks like the file is downloaded. I'll open it. It took a minute. It was a good 2 minutes. Display driver, Windows 10, yeah. Should churn right through some VR. Although as soon as you have more power, you just add more pixels and you're right back where you started. That's where PlayStation VR is going to be a really good deal. But by the time it comes out, there's going to be some neat stuff for the computer. I just went express. I usually don't do that, but I always try to sneak something in on you. Seems like everybody wants to have a marketplace. But, you know, if you're into this type of thing and you're thinking about it, and say you don't even have a computer or you don't have any video games, this GeForce Now will play on your phone. You can hook up a controller via Bluetooth to your phone, or if you have a, they have ways that you can use it on like a smart TV, any kind of streaming device. Any cheap little computer will act like it has high-end graphics because they're going to do the graphics calculation on their end and they stream it to you like Netflix. Now there's a little bit of latency, so when you move the mouse it's a little bit late, but it's not too bad. And if you're trying to figure out if you want to spend a lot of money on video games, that's a heck of a way to figure it out. But for VR, the latency is no good. Otherwise, they could probably do VR that way. And maybe they will in the future. But for VR, it's really good to have the computer sitting right next to you, or on your back, or on your face. So now I have drivers. Now I should be able to go back to mixed reality. The NVIDIA GeForce, here it says graphics card is like a I. PC's graphics card might work with Windows Mixed Reality, but it hasn't been tested. Okay. You say so. Couldn't start it. Connect to your headset. Try unplugging the headset and plugging it back in. That's what they say you gotta do. Let's try that. Plug it back in. Well, it sensed it, so that's a good thing. I would like to have success, because that would just say good things about my plan of action. I have a little status light on this box, so that's good. They say it's finicky, and I'm going to need the new cable. I'm going to call them probably today or tomorrow and have them send the new cable out, because obviously this isn't top-notch as far as connection. They say there's only one port that'll work, and you gotta find it. That's the Mini right there. That didn't even get that one. Come on, you can do it. Well, it senses it. I don't know why the program won't. Maybe it takes a minute. Oh, come on. Oh, couldn't start, error code 714. Try unplugging and plugging it back in. Seems like it takes a minute. You gotta let it sit for a minute. Plug it back in and wait. The Vive wasn't too bad. We had it downloaded and turned on, and all of a sudden the screen lit up, and we had the Vive Cosmos. I was thinking about it. 714. Let's try the Mini again. Maybe the Mini will work. It's nice I have a Mini on there. Come on, big dog. Yeah, this takes like a minute. It's a good 35 seconds. Error code 714. That's hurting me. That's too bad. I had a feeling it was going to have connection issues, but I didn't think it would be a game. Like, I thought maybe I'd be able to get it to work. I'll try one of these slower ports. It's not supposed to work off of those, but maybe they're all USB 3. I don't know. Some of them say SS, and I thought, was that super speed? I don't know. It takes a mini education to get into these computers. You got to study them a little bit for a while before. If you don't know anything about it, you totally have to study for a while. You have to know just the different motherboards and the compatibilities, and who's doing what with what, and who makes what, and the different teams, and it's just a whole thing. Which is why these pre-builds exist. It's like, hey, don't worry about it. We got it all set up, and try to get past the mixed reality portal. But it's nice to know. But it takes a lot of your life. like you spend a lot of time. I don't even think it sensed that one. It's probably USB 2. If you could count the hours a person dreams about their computer and thinks about it and makes upgrades and buys, and it would be up there on the list of things you spend a lot of time on, between like sleeping and getting dressed and all those things you could add up, eating, that just take up a lot of time. It's getting philosophical here because I have a lot of time to think about philosophy while this thing's not connecting. I'm going to have to send it. At least I have a code. It gave me a code, 714. I'm going to be able to call HP and get on the hooter with them and give them some numbers. There's an internet post where they talk about the numbers that you have to give them to get your cord sent out. And honestly, if I had to do it over again, I would have bought the cheaper headset from Trendfort for $289 instead of $389, and then I would have told them 714, 714, and then they would send out a cord, and I would have saved $100. Because basically I paid an extra $100 for this one because I had a cord with it. They had two versions, $289 without the cord and $389 with the cord, but this cord is not working with my system, which I don't actually appreciate. But I knew it was going to have something to do. They said they could get one port to work, unless they used a USB hub that would help power it. But it has a 45 watt power adapter. It shouldn't need more power than that. Those are the brakes. Might have to do updates to my motherboard, BIOS. I should update the BIOS on the motherboard. But at least I have something to go on. There's always a few kinks to iron out with these computers, which is why a lot of people shy away from them when they do the consoles. But we're going to go ahead and iron out these kinks. I was reading that the G2 was having a little bit of connection problems, but the BIOS update on Windows 10 motherboards was helping it to work on all of the USB ports. And if that doesn't work, last resort is to install this PCI Express 3.0 card, and this will probably be enough to power it. For some reason it has a power issue where it needs extra power or something. So, but I have them here at Dell.com, and I'm checking for updates. So I actually got this working, which is pretty cool. It has like a mouse. It works pretty well. I mean, it's not, you're not going to game with it, but it's pretty cool for nighttime couch navigation. That's awesome, especially for $10. Looks like I had to just charge it for a while. Once it charged up, it was fine. Be curious to see what the drivers are. Chipset, AMD chipset driver. Network killer, PCI Ethernet controller driver. Wi-Fi Bluetooth driver. I'm going to take them all. So with any luck, that'll fix my problem. That would be awesome. It's telling me it needs additional components for some reason. It's nice to get the chipset driver though. Restart required to complete the installation. Please restart your computer. Remember to save your work first. Installation success on the network stuff, but the chipset, it needs a restart. 21st of May 2020. That was a ways back. It's probably already up to date because I don't know. It said it wasn't though. But NVMe restart. It shouldn't take too long. It's like 1,000, 1,000. That's one of the coolest features of an Alienware, is just having that come up when you turn on your screen. So that took about 15 seconds. It wasn't much. I'm just going to go up here and try to turn on Steam VR mode. I don't know what that They're gonna need to install Steam VR. Here's mixed reality for Steam VR. Can't hurt. I already have mixed reality as far as I know, but that might have been off the Microsoft Store, so this is more off of Steam. It said ready, I thought. Now it says it's downloading some more. Well, it has the play button, but it has auto updates on for some reason, so it's going to be a minute. I've just updated the BIOS, everything I can update here. The drivers are updated on the main board and everything. And now I have welcome, please plug in your VR headset. I just installed Steam and Windows Mixed Reality, and I'm not getting anything. When you launch Windows Mixed Reality, it launches Steam VR, and Steam VR says welcome, please plug in your headset. So I'm going to give it one more shot and try for using this PCI Express 3.0 card and see if it can listen to that. So kind of unfortunately, the slot that's best suited for this is right in front of the GPU and would block the fan quite a bit, and I really don't like that. And so I would have to put it down one. It would still kind of block it, but that's the other 8X PCI Express slot. There's nothing I can do about it. Hopefully I don't need another slot for anything. As of right now, I can't think of why I would, but things can change. This is from my other computer. It's probably, if this works, I'll have to buy another card. Usually it's pretty much plug and play. The last time I put it in, it was just kind of worked. Okay, cool. I just plugged that in to that 3.0 slot. Now it says error code 41. So I don't know what error code 41 is, but I think it sensed it. We'll move it over one, see what happens. It's definitely sensing it now, so that's good, and doing it quickly. USB code 41. The super speed USB 3.0. These are super speed. Maybe it needs to have drivers downloaded. I thought it was kind of plug and play though. Let's see about drivers on that one. So the date on this is 11/16/20. So it doesn't look like drivers is an issue. So here's a thread. Reverb briefly worked and now gives error code 41. New number of the connection. Sounds like USB speed too slow. Ended up having to unplug my HDMI monitor and use the DisplayPort to DVI to a second monitor to get it to work. I tried to use it again a few months ago and I couldn't get it to work. Always 4.1. Windows Mixed Reality is bad. My Rift S has no problems. Quest 1 no problems. Quest 2 no problems. They told me they cannot do anything for 30 days. Bring on DisplayPort on my monitor, but don't think that's the issue. In the device manager under Reverb, it says USB speed is too slow, but I have had it running using the USB port, so that shouldn't be it. Did manage to get it briefly working after removing the mouse keyboard USB drivers and rebooting. Left my PC on for a few hours while I was in another room and came back. After I came back, I had an in-device manager for G2 with an error. Windows had stopped this device because it was reporting problems. Apparently now I am no longer getting 4.1, 4.4 errors. Seeing all of my USB 3s starting to work, but the headset continually seems to do what the G1 does and enumerate and then de-enumerate. If I run USB tree, I can see G2 enumerating things on the Super Speed Hub as well as the other ones. So it sounds like I'm going to have to extend for a cable sooner than later. I do have another headset. I can use the Vive Cosmos in the meantime. This is why it was available for refurbished. Waste 2 days trying to get everything to work. That's computers, isn't it? It was stunning when it worked. Unplug from the headset and replug. You know, I already blew this out, the headset. I've already blown it out with air. It's probably going to be the cable. I expected cable problems, I just wasn't sure if I was going to get anything. But if I bought brand new, they were going to send me one brand new with the same problem, and then when I had the problem they were going to send me a cable, so I figured I'd do that, but just not give them that initial chunk of money. So I unplug it, plug it back in, the Windows Mixed Reality comes up. 4.1. Make sure it's plugged into super speed. Well, it's interesting to see what the problems are. I mean, it's everything you can basically imagine. It definitely works better off the PCI Express card. Sometimes I just need to be blown out. I've had that problem. You know, I had this problem with my projector too. It's kind of finicky about getting the signal. It usually works, but every once in a while I just got to reset everything. Well, that's too bad. Is it possible it's going over this power cord and it's causing it to have... That's what would happen with the projectors. It would cross lines with like a power cord or something, and it would just cause interference or whatever. It just wasn't isolated enough, wasn't a good enough signal. It just didn't work. I think they should all run off of like category 5, Cat 5 cable, because that seems to work for the internet just fine. But then once we get in between everything, they want to run these little protocols that sometimes don't seem to work very well. Yeah, from what I can tell, that's not working. Getting a 4.1 error. I think I'll send out for the new cable that's supposed to be working better. I'll just have to get on the internet, and once that's done I can just wait on it. They had to have tested them, and even the person that sold this to me said it was tested with the $300 one was tested with a good cable, and these ones were tested. I was assuming tested meant it works. You know, they say it doesn't work very well on X570 anyway, but I was thinking I would be able to get it to work. I actually just had good luck. They say there's only one port that will work normally with this HP Reverb and this older, the first style cable. And I just tried, just on a whim. I've done everything else. I installed the PCI Express 3.0 card, tried that, and it will detect it, but then it will not go through. But this is a mini display port on the front. And there it is. Now it's happy. Set up your controls. Thumbsticks. Let's connect. Press and hold the Windows button for 2 seconds to turn on your controllers. I always turn them on a flat surface. Kind of like setting up a drone. You don't wave a drone around while you're initializing it. But it's not common knowledge, believe it or not. Always make sure they're still. The force feedback on those is a little bit cheap. Now it says something about a pairing button. There's a pairing button right here. Press and hold. It's like bang. They want to ask me if I want to do this? Answer is yes. So it's cool I'm getting somewhere. I was a little bit disappointed, but it's okay now. Alright, so I'm going to put this close to the mic so you can hear the force feedback as I'm pairing this. It kind of just feels like an old cell phone, like a pager. That's what this feels like. The rumble feature feels like a pager from the 90s. But you know, they put it all into the display because that's what people wanted, and they did what they did, and they sold it for what they can sell for. And look, I bought one, so I can get a whole Pimax setup for $1,800, but I haven't done that yet. This is wireless. That's just for charging, so that's pretty neat. What does it say? Set me up for all experiences. Set me up for seated. Okay, so this is like driving versus standing. I wonder if I have... This is not even on. I'm not seeing any lights in there. It's created by me. First, make sure your space is clear above you. The best experience, you'll need at least 5 to 7 feet. Next, we'll center your headset. Hold it in front of you and point it towards your computer, then select center. It's still a black screen on the headset here, but I'll do as they ask. My headset does not have any lights on, so that's kind of odd. And it doesn't want to do center. I was getting my hopes up, but I have a feeling there's a problem here still. Use speech and mixed reality. Always be listening to your voice. So if you, I don't like that. That's what I kind of don't like, because you have a siren head right in the living room that just don't know what they're gonna. I mean, most people would say, well, if you're not doing anything wrong, you don't have to worry about the oversight, but that's the whole loss of rights after a while, because they say, well, if you're not doing anything wrong, you don't have to worry about me being a communist. You know, I don't know, it's kind of a sensitive subject with all the different economies in the world, but oh, look at that, it's on. Wow. Look at that. I got some. Can you see? Pretty crisp. Fun stuff. I'm glad I'm able to see it today. Did I just kill it? No. So it's clearer, but it's still VR. But I was already having the Cosmos, so, and it's more squared off than the Cosmos. The screen is actually very kind of squared. It looks a little bit squared off. I mean, yeah, it's clearer. IPD for me has to be all the way in. And the sweet spot is decent once you get it there. That's pretty good. It's still VR though. I mean, it's still very similar in a lot of ways to the Vive Cosmos. But screen door, it's really small. It kind of just looks like if you look at maybe a paper towel or something. Stay in the loop, it says, okay. But you know, there's really no jaggies anywhere. It's pretty crisp. The lenses could probably, I'm so used to the lenses on the Cosmos being traded out for the aspheric lenses, that it's probably not as fun just watching the screen here and listening to me talk, but I'm just describing what I see here, and it's pretty darn good. Now that I'm actually looking at it, I've been wanting to look at it for a while. There's just less jaggies. There really aren't any. Like somehow it's sharp, but then all of the lines are slightly fuzzy. You know, I could end up doing like a comparison. But just for today, This is everything I'm seeing. You can see there's just no jaggies. The sweet spot is pretty decent considered these are not aspherical lenses. They kind of have a bulge to them, and it seems like it's kind of a hybrid between aspherical and the Fresnel lenses, because I can see the Fresnel, but it's not flat on top. You can see it's kind of rounded like that, so it doesn't have to have as much Fresnel. And if you look at the lens, it just seems a little bit less aggressive than some of the other Fresnel lenses. Some of the other ones were kind of a thicker groove, and this side was flat, so then those grooves had to be even more pronounced and angled. So this seems to me like it's a hybrid between an aspherical lens and a Fresnel lens. But see, this is just looking at it plain, but if I zoom in, you start to see the fabric of it a little bit. I'm trying to get that sweet spot. I mean, that's zoomed in quite a bit. That's way over there. And then I'm making it the full screen. You see it does have limitations, and I knew it would, because I can tell just by the specs that it's just another few hundred lines, but they did pretty good on the lens, and it does have an overall feeling. There we go. Here's a pretty overall. This is where I noticed, looking right over there, it looks pretty crisp looking past those trees. I could still tell it was video game graphics. I could still tell it was VR. The colors are similar. You know, it just has the screen feeling, kind of like it's a monitor, but overall it does look nicer. And I noticed here on this type of thing that there wasn't a lot of jaggies. A lot of times there's jaggies going up and down these types of lines. But you know there's pixels behind that. There's a little bit better focus. I mean, you can see it. But that's far away. And it's just small in the vision. And the field of view isn't too bad. It's definitely pretty similar. I'd say maybe a couple degrees possibly bigger than the Cosmos. I don't know. I'd have to really check. I'm not doing a huge comparison. I don't really want to knock anybody. I like my Cosmos, and it served me well, and I did the lens mod, and it was totally worth it. I got a sweet deal on it. I got it used, just like I got this refurbished. You can see it's working pretty well, and it's probably going to be my new favorite headset. can't tell where your body is. So everything works. I had it all sitting in a pile for a while, and I was kind of concerned that maybe something wouldn't work. I think the worst thing was the HP Reverb, having to move the USB 3 around and try to find one. I installed that card and finally found one that works. And even still now I'm getting black screens on occasion. What I find is if the bass is really heavy in like a rhythm game, the bass will actually soak up all the electricity, and then the screens don't have enough electricity to operate. So if I turn the volume down of the system to the headset down to like 80%, then it seems to work okay, and it doesn't black screen on something that previously always black screens in the same spot. Usually a bassy part of a song, and it'll make one eye go down and then the other one, and as soon as you die, or as soon as it stops the rhythm game because you're not hitting the triangles or whatever, and the music stops, then the screens will come back on. So yeah, I'm going to go through HP and I'm going to get that new cord, and it's going to fix everything. I already know. So it's going to fix it all. And I have a spare cord that's kind of wonky. The 3080's been holding up just fine. It works really well. I haven't overclocked it, really haven't had to. With the extra resolution, it's kind of putting me in the same ballpark that the 2070 Super was. The 2070 Super with the Cosmos is pushing like 2.5 million pixels, and this is pushing like 4.5. That's almost 3 million, and I think this was, I didn't do the math, it was like 4.5 million. I did it on the calculator. So it's, even though it only has a few hundred more on this side and a few hundred more on this side, if you count the pixels, since it's times, it ends up being twice the amount of pixels. So you need twice the power to push it. And when everything's doubled, then you're right back where you started when you're messing with the settings, and you kind of have to turn something down, or you don't get the super sample like you wanted to, and you end up dealing with bouncing between 60 and 70 frames rather than a locked 90. So I'm always going to leave the option open to go back to my Vive Cosmos, or just run this at a lower resolution to make sure that I have that nice locked 90, or that I can turn some details up. I've been playing a few games. I wanted to play a Microsoft Flight Simulator, but that one's not been working for me lately. They have some kind of bug with Update 5 that it's been knocking some of us out, so I'm hoping that Update 7 will bring us back in. If not, maybe I could go back to some of the other flight simulators. I do have this one. It's not really much of a flight simulation. It's a racing game, and it's pretty good. It's made by the people that make VTOL VR, and this is Jetborne Racing. It's fun to play online. If you're ever online, maybe you'll race me, because there's really not that many people that play online, but it's a lot of fun. Those are the games I've been playing, and also that Into the Radius. That game, it really has such an awesome atmosphere, and that was one of the ones that my girlfriend was playing, and it has such an atmosphere. And then now with this extra resolution, when I got back in, it was a lot more crisp, and I could see between the trees more. It's kind of like when you're looking at 1080p, and then you first boot up Witcher 3 on 4K, and it's got that tree thing going, and you're like, man, that's pretty cool. I paid a lot of money for that. It was fine on 1080p, but man, that's really cool in 4K. That's kind of what's going on here. And the sense of presence is a little bit better. There's no screen door. And that's the only thing, the only drawback about doing a massive upgrade like this is there's not a new set of games that comes with it. went to my old save file, I booted right back where I was just playing, and I remembered where I was, and I just continued on. So it can be a little bit of a bummer to do a massive upgrade. You have twice as many pixels, but the same games, same save files, right back where you were already, and just kind of a new standard of quality that you're going to be used to, and anything less is uncivilized, I guess. But you know, I can still go back to the older ones, and I don't feel bad. Like, I'll still go back to PlayStation VR and sometimes play through Farpoint, just 1 or 2 levels, just to remember what it was like, because the game was kind of revolutionary. It had this kind of weird sides to it, but overall the atmosphere, I love those games with the atmosphere, like in Farpoint where there's that volcano and you can just stand there and then there's the music. That's a little bit how Into the Radius is, and that's why I really like Into the Radius. And so now this is actually giving it kind of an even nicer atmosphere. It's even more realistic, and I've been able to hold 90 frames quite a bit more locked. I get it locked at 90 now. I still have to like knock the shadows down, and I even knock the textures down to medium to have that happen. But it's super sampled, and it's I think it's close to 4,000 by 4,000 actual resolution sent to the headset. It's like 35 and 37. So it looks pretty good. You can always go more. I tried to go way up to like 5 and 6 and 7,000, but it won't have it. It's like 10 frames a second. So it's pretty cool. One thing I want to talk about is a lot of money, and they're hard to find. I had to camp out for it, and it's a lot of money. But I was thinking about it. A lot of these game systems will prorate you whether you know it or not. And if you prorate yourself, this is actually $3 a day. If you think about it, $3 times 365, that's about $1,000. Times 3 years, that's about $3,000. You can easily get something like this. Actually, if you went through Dell, this would probably be about the 3091 version of this with the 32 gigs of RAM, the 2 terabyte hard drive. Just about what I have here was $4,200. So you could probably get the 3080 Ti version. I think it would probably be about $3,500. I didn't actually dial it up, but I think it would be 35, 36, 37. So I actually saved some money by doing it this way. I did have to camp out for the GPU, but to prorate it out, say I have 3 years, $3 a day, and then I sell it after 3 years for $1,000, that gives me one of those years back, so I actually have $2 a day. So it's actually, over time, it ends up being very cheap. And then the daily electricity to run it, say it's 400 or 500 watts, and I run it, say, for a number of hours, you know, that comes into play as well. That's why we like the efficient computers. But, you know, there's a lot of things that can cost you $2 a day, and a lot of habits that can cost you $5 and $10 and $15 a day that are just not, they're going to drag you down a lot more than a really high-end PC would. And in fact, if you have company or you have Steam friends, you can play online, or you can, if you have 2 computers, you can play in the same room, golf or whatever else, maybe racing, this Jetborn or anything. So it's really actually kind of a good deal, and it's kind of a private party too. I like it for that. A lot of times, like I would go to go-karts. Go-karts are like $10, and you go around like 6 or 8 times, you know. And then you can have the video games. You have the mini golf. You can pay like $12, and you get a couple holes of mini golf. But if you have a few people with you, say it's your treat, you know, it ends up being $60, $80 out of your pocket. So that would pay for like a month or 2 of the gaming PC. And playing the walkabout mini golf in VR is very much like going to a place, and you don't have to talk to anybody to give them money. You don't have to, what are the rules? You don't have to worry about if you're doing it right or anything. There's no rules. You can hit the ball so hard it goes flying over 3 different holes, and all of a sudden it just appears right back in front of you and you get to try again. There's a lot of benefit. There's racing, there's simulation, there's flight simulation. There's a lot of things. Now, it is fake, you know, it's nothing that you're actually doing, so there is that takeaway. But, you know, when we're watching TV and we see Mount Rushmore, we go, hey, that's a nice picture of Mount Rushmore, and you appreciate it. So what they do digitally is they do that, but then they scale it, and it's rasterized and everything on an angle, and it's presented to you in VR, and you can still see it, and it's still legit. So that's awesome, and it's worth it. For $2, $3 a day, say things are getting boring, say you're snowed in 2.5 feet, it's worth it. You know, say you're broke, say you spent all your money, say you had a transmission went out on your car, if you have a car that has a trans, then you would need to have it fixed, and it would cost $2,500. Well, I wanted to do something, you know, it's been a couple weeks, you know, well, hey, you have a nice gaming PC. In fact, you could sell it and get your transmission done. Or you could, if you have the money, you can go ahead. There's just so many, I could just go on and make up all kinds of hypothetical situations, but I'm just saying $2 to $3 a day is totally doable for a lot of people. So as much as it sounds like, oh man, 2-3 grand, something like that, it is at once, but on a daily basis it's $2 or $3. So on that note, if you need to save some money, I do have an eBay store, GB Hatchery. I sell all kinds of things on eBay. Same thing, on a daily basis, not much, but it adds up over time. So your savings could add up over time if you buy from me all the time. There is that. I'll leave a link in the description, GB Hatchery. I'll also leave a link in the description to some of the things I bought. Maybe some math on it or something, I don't know, but most of the information is here in the video. But I could leave some links to like maybe Trendfort for this headset, and wherever else, maybe for the this I bought from an individual, the Alienware, because I think they just wanted the GPU. But I could leave whatever links I can think of. I'll definitely try to leave for you in case you're curious about it. Well, that concludes this video. I hope you enjoyed it. You can always like, sub, comment, share, hit the notification bell, or just send me some free money. Thanks for watching the video, and you'll see me in the next one.